What's up, y'all? Talon here, and today I'm excited to be sharing that the Regulation E format, the first official competitive format for the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games after the Teal DLC drop, has been announced. It's going to be every Pokemon that have been legal in Pokemon Scarlet, Violet, and Pokemon Home, as well as the new ones released through Pokemon Teal masks. So I took the time to assemble and create some really strong Regulation E teams, just sourcing them from Twitter as well as recreating a couple of them myself in game. So if you appreciate that resource, please subscribe to the channel and let's get into a breakdown of those teams. So to start out, I do want to shout out a lot of these teams were created and shared by a Chinese VGC player called Atalanta. I'll have their Twitter on the screen now, as well as linked in the description. I have all the EV spreads for all of these teams, as well as the rental codes in the description below along with that. But yeah, let's get into a couple of these teams. So starting off, we have a bunch of really aggressive teams that show off some of the new Pokemon. Namely, for the first one in the top left, we have the Ogerpon Hearthflame mask. So pairing it with Tornadus with Tailwind and Sunny Day lets you really consistently get extremely strong Terra Fire and Body Aspect, attack boost, Ivy Cudgels off, and take knockouts throughout the format, and just like even knocking out things like Iron Hands that are just absurdly bulky. Shouldn't be getting one at KO'd by anything that isn't a super effective hit. Ogerpon can take that knockout. On a similar but kind of a different note, we actually have a Tornadus with Sunny Day and Rain Dance. So Rain Dance for the Ogerpon Wellspring form, which is kind of more the stronger defensively form. The Embody Aspect giving it a special defense boost means it's able to get Swords Dances up and heal a lot of HP with Horn Leech, as well as go for it's similarly strong Ivy Cudgels in the Rain. Not quite as strong as the Fire Ivy Cudgels in Sun, but still doing incredible damage. And the rest of the team just is really consistent options. I like the Urshifu Dark in Tailwind teams just because the ability to hit through Protect is really strong at preventing your opponent from stalling out those Tailwind turns. In the bottom left, we have a really cool Tailwind team featuring Kommo-o, which is a kind of a fan favorite returning in the Teal Mask DLC. With its Terra Steel, it's able to Terra out of its really debilitating 4x weakness to Fairy types and now resist them, as well as have Bulletproof, which uniquely gives it the property to be immune to Bullet and Ball-based moves, and Shadow Ball from Flutter Mane is included in that. So you're actually able to wall a fair amount of Flutter Mane with the Kommo-o, which is really cool. You also carry the Throat Spray item, which when you go for a Clangorous Soul, you'll take a 30 HP in exchange for a +2 boost in special attack and then +1 in the rest of your stats, which lets you sweep with Clanging Scales and Flash Cannon. And we've actually seen a lot of Kommo-o, mainly because the Ogerpons have a pretty poor matchup against its high physical defense, as well as its natural dragon typing, resisting fire, grass, water, rock, so basically all the attacks that it wants to go for, and being able to do big unresisted damage back with Clanging Scales. The Okidogi is also a really cool option on the team because it's running Toxic Chain over Guard Dog, which is really cool with Snarl particularly, because basically you're able to go for a Snarl to weaken your opponent's damage output while also having a chance to poison them, and it's just a really strong Pokemon on this type of team. Last up on the Tailwind teams is a team that was able to win a massive grassroots tournament. I think it was about 400 people. I could be wrong about that, but it was created by a Japanese player by Resu, who went, I think 13-1 or 13-2 or something really incredible with it, and it ultimately took the tournament. It's got some cool options, specifically the double choice or triple choice combination of Landorus, Goldango, and Urshifu for really strong damage output, and then Rillaboom plus Ogerpon with Grassy Glide on both of them. So if you even if you don't have Tailwind up on this team, you have a lot of priority options and speed options to overwhelm your opponents. So I think it's a very cool team that we're going to continue to see a lot from. Winning a tournament that big is definitely going to get some eyes on it. And one last thing I forgot to mention, the Landorus is actually a Terra Rock. Rock Slide, we're seeing a ton of the Ogerpon Terra Fire form, or the Ogerpon Hearthflame form, so having something that can basically Terra and go for insane damage on the Rock Slide is very cool. Next up, in contrast to the Tailwind teams, are some more defensive setup teams. So a lot of these teams have a Trick Room element, but they're all really focused around setting up 1 or 2 Pokemon to deal insane amounts of damage and just having the rest of the Pokemon support those. Starting off in the top left, we have a team that's very similar to one that Wolf Glick was actually able to take to top 16 in the really large grassroots tournaments. This one is centered around the Kommo-o, as well as the Snorlax with Belly Drum. So similar to the previous team, the previous Tailwind team at Kommo-o, we have a Clangorous Soul, Flash Cannon, Clanging Scales set with the Terra Steel. We have Soundproof here, which is kind of cool because you actually beat other Kommo-o, which is not irrelevant. They're definitely rising up in the usage stats, so having a favorable matchup into that is definitely very nice. You also have the new addition of Sinistra, which is a really strong Trick Room Pokemon that's able to also just switch in Rage Powder away pressure while you're trying to get the setup up, and then also get Trick Room up sometimes, as well as give your Pokemon healing with Hospitality, which is really important for Pokemon like Kommo-o and Snorlax, whose setup move actually does take away their HP, so having a guaranteed Hospitality to heal that back up is really appreciated. Of course, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the non-fully evolved Pokemon Clefairy on these teams. It's just with the Friend Guard ability, it's really strong, and it has an option that Mousehold, which is the more conventional Friend Guard user, Helping Hand and Heal Pulse. I think Mousehold might be able to go for Helping Hand, but Heal Pulse is definitely appreciated on a team like this, where your Pokemon are just consistently taking lots of damage to set up. Having the option to Heal Pulse them is just really appreciated. Next up is a very similar team, but instead of the Snorlax as the final setup Pokemon, we have a Ursaluna, the new Ursaluna form, Blood Moon. It has the Mind's Eye ability, so it's able to hit any ghost type Pokemon with any normal type move, which is really cool because this is actually a Terra normal, mono normal typing attacking Ursaluna, taking advantage of that ability, as well as with Hyper Voice Blood Moon, its incredible 140 base power move that you can only select once every 2 turns, as well as Calm Mind. So again, going for setup and just getting as much damage as possible with Hyper Voice and Blood Moon, while also probably taking a hit and then healing it off with Hospitality. Bottom left, we have something that's called a Psyspan team. So basically centered around getting Trick Room up with Indeedee Armarouge as your lead, and then either having Torkoal in the back or Ursaluna in the back to come in and do crazy damage after Indeedee goes down, while spamming Spread, really strong Heat Waves, or Expanding Forces in Psychic Terrain. And yeah, it's a pretty simple team, but very deceptively difficult to deal with if you're playing it well. So yeah, this specific team got, I think, either 6-0 or 7-0 at the Beast Coast LAN event. Tom Hayden, I'll have their Twitter linked in the description below next to the team, but yeah, really strong team that's definitely not going anywhere in Regulation E. Last up is a team centered around setting up Okidogi. Basically, you have Grimmsnarl to set up screens, and then you go for bulk up with the Okidogi, and then heal up any damage you do take with Drain Punch and Leftovers, and then do knockoff damage into anything that is basically not something you want to Drain Punch. Next up, we've seen a lot of manual weather this format, but not so much a lot of rain. What we have seen in spades is snow. So on the left side, we have the what I would say the more common variant of the snow teams. It's basically centered around setting up Aurora Veil. Getting basically double screens up on 1 turn with Ninetales is really strong, and it enables your Baxcalibur to go for Swords Dance and then Scale Shot to get a really potent combination of speed and power, while also having Ice Body to heal up any damage you're taking. The loaded dice just makes your Icicle Spears and Scale Shots hit 4 times at least, sometimes 5s. If you aren't forced to Terra, you still have that defense boost from Snow, so just a really cool setup Pokemon in that regard. Next up is a team that did really well on the Pokemon Showdown ladder. It has Shiftry as a means of setting up for a Fake Out for Ninetales to get Aurora Veil, or Articuno to go for Tailwind to set up its Wind Rider ability, as well as a Choice Scarf, Teal Mask, Ogerpon, so no additional typing, just taking full advantage of its Defiant ability and really strong coverage options with the Choice Scarf, as well as a Life Orb Heatran to take advantage of the fake tiers that Ninetales does possess. Next up are a couple of teams I've been calling Intimi-Bait. So essentially, it's a lot of the similar physical attacking Pokemon on these teams with a different mode to basically punish your opponent for trying to go for Intimidate. Weezing's Neutralizing Gas means that they actually just can't intimidate you. The ability won't activate, and you'll do a ton of damage with your other Pokemon. Empoleon, competitive, if they activate your competitive ability, you're doing a ton of damage. And one thing I like about this Empoleon in particular is it has yawns. While your opponent kind of just say, okay, I just won't use Intimidate in the lead if I know Empoleon's coming, you can basically yawn and force them to switch out into one of their other Pokemon, and usually if you can punish the Pokemon that is the Intimidate Pokemon with the switch, they're in a really dicey situation with that yawn lock. Lastly is the Milotic on this Roaring Moon team. So Roaring Moon is actually really well poised into all the grass type Sinistcha and Ogerpon in this format, so definitely something to be looking out for. And yeah, we have a Haze, Icy Wind Scald Milotic. Usually we see Recover, but this Milotic is just really strong into Dondozo. They've been dropping the Terra Grass Terra Blast set in favor of Order Up, so essentially you're able to just consistently haze them and let the rest of your Pokemon beat them, which is really cool. I'm going to go back up to the top left. It is the Weezing Slacking combination that I kind of just glazed over, but yes, it's a very cool perk of the Neutralizing Gas. You're able to disable your horrible abilities, particularly Truant, and let Slacking finally live up to its full glory. So that's going to do it for the rental teams in this video. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. I'm probably going to be getting battle videos on the ranked ladder with all of these teams. Usually I'm able to climb pretty high and get some competitive battles, so if you want to see that, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to hit 1,000 subs in the near future. With all that being said, thanks for watching, and peace y'all.